What if the best leadership training you ever received didn't happen in a boardroom or a classroom, but on a field? Welcome back to another episode of Being at Work. I'm your host, Andrea Butcher, and today's guest has spent his career proving that the principles that build championship teams are the same principles that build extraordinary organizations. And he would know because he's done both. Lloyd Brown's journey started as a player, evolved into coaching, and then into something even more powerful, coaching the coaches. Today, he is still on the sidelines as a football coach and running player development while bringing the same coaching mindset into the corporate world through Lloyd Brown Learning and Development, where he works with leaders, managers, and teams to build the skills that actually move the needle. And here's what Lloyd will tell you. The gap between great athletics coaching and great leadership isn't as wide as most people think. Both require discipline. Both require deep, intentional relationship. And both rise or fall on culture. A culture that isn't built through a single all-hands meeting or a values poster on the wall, but one relationship at a time. One interaction at a time, one moment of showing up at a time. Lloyd also does something that tells you everything you need to know about who he is. He runs free Zoom calls for parents trying to help their kids get to college. Because in this world, developing a person means investing in the whole system around them. So if you've ever wondered what it would look like to lead less like a manager and more like a coach, this conversation is your answer. Lloyd Brown, welcome to Being at Work.
Hey, I am blessed to be here. Thank you so much, Andrea. And I got to tell you, you are kind of a local celebrity here with your speaking engagements, your keynotes, your podcast, your training. So very blessed and fortunate to be right here with you on this podcast today.
Yeah. And we share a passion for this work. We are also both very high energy individuals. So this is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Cannot wait.
And I love the coaching mindset. And I know it is such a part of who you are in your story. So give us some context around how you got into this work.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a complete accident. As a player back at Ball State University, I wasn't done with my degree once my playing years were over. So I stuck around and I was an assistant coach for one more season. And I had a chance to see the opposite side of managing players, managing budgets, looking at equipment, organizing schedules, and things that were just completely different from the player side of things. But after that, took about 10 years off of football, got into the corporate space, jumped into sales management, HR, recruiting, and eventually came back around when it came to training. And I realized that there was so much overlap between coaching football, coaching salespeople, or coaching any other employees that both of those worlds complemented each other dramatically. It was awesome.
In what way? What compliments did you see?
You know, I noticed that as I was learning to be a trainer, all of the concepts and ideas about adult learning principles, measuring any kind of learning that goes on, or being able to deliver messages multiple ways, really just fell into place with talking to players on a football field. So I found myself using everything I had gotten from like ATD and some of these other organizations in my coaching capacity, but then also in the coaching capacity, we do a lot of clinics, a lot of learning in terms of what we can do to develop culture and work with players and to teach better. And those are things I was able to use in the corporate world, in the sales capacity, and then also dealing with any kind of leaders in our organizations. So it was a great compliment where both of those worlds just overlapped, and it helped me to be a little bit better in both of them.
And it's so relatable. You know, everyone wants to win. And when we think of winning, we can easily point to athletics. And so it creates this parallel, doesn't it, that so many people get and relate to.
Oh, absolutely. And when it comes to competition, you know, everyone wants to win, like you had just mentioned. And how you do it really is based upon the people that you've got, who you surround yourself with, and what's the environment that you're giving them to thrive, to perform, and to excel.
Yeah. So, what is the thing that great coaches know in athletics that most leaders don't?
Hmm. I think the first nugget I could probably pull out from that is great coaches understand that it's all about the people, it's all about the players, or if we're talking about the workspace, it's all about the
Mm,
employees. And when we're talking about developing or trying to attain goals and to hit metrics and look at KPIs and all those sorts of different things, it's not up to you to do all the work, especially if you are in a larger organization. Now it's time for you to get work done through other people. And as you're trying to get work done through other people, it's your job to serve as a trainer, as a developer, as a motivator in order to get those things accomplished. But you've got to take a step back and realize it's not my place to try to get all these things done on my own.
yeah, and I love that answer because when you look to athletics, it's so obvious. The coaching role
Yeah.
is very different. Why don't most leaders in a business context focus on getting work through others? What gets them hung up?
I think sometimes pride,
Mm,
sometimes ego, or sometimes naturally time. And it could be a combination of those or some other factors. But when it comes to people not wanting to let go and not wanting to give responsibility to someone else or to delegate appropriately, it forces you to get your hands back on. And that's where you start to see a little bit more micromanaging or do this way at this time. And now you're really kind of managing the process and you're not giving your employees or your players the freedom or flexibility to succeed or even to fail.
yeah.
And you can learn a lot in both of those different those different directions too.
Yeah. Is there like a current client or a story that comes to mind for you that represents that?
I think that one of the things you notice about a football game is the coaches are on the sideline for a very specific reason. I mean, they're
Yeah.
not supposed to be out there playing. They're not supposed to be out there performing and doing all the things. So all the coaching, all of the development, all of the teaching has to happen in practice, in the locker room, and then also making sure that those players are confident enough and prepared enough to deal with whatever happens to them on the field. Same thing when it comes to dealing
Yeah.
with salespeople or dealing with employees. It's what are we doing in meetings? What are we doing in one-on-one sessions? What are we doing with any coaching opportunities where we might be able to coach in the moment or coach after a moment where there was a project or maybe there was a task that got done well? And let's do a postmortem to figure those things out. Or maybe something that didn't work out so well and figure out how can we improve that next time it happens.
Yeah, you're making me think about the differences and how in an athletic situation, the role is really well defined.
Mm.
The part that the coach play is really well defined. In a business context, I think there's so much vying for the leader's attention. And often they sacrifice the people part of their role. No doubt you see that all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, imagine the impact of leaders being freed up or leaders really focusing the majority of their time on their people. The impact of that, the difference in that.
It's almost like being a parent. If you're a manager in any kind of capacity, your role is to help your employees to grow and develop. And as you're working to help them grow and develop, it's almost like a mother or a father trying to grow and develop their child or their children. So your approach becomes a little different where it may not be so focused on the end result or the outcome, but how we get there and making sure they've got the right mindset and they've got the right skill set in order to get those things accomplished. But it's a much different approach with how you talk to people, what you mention, when, and then also sometimes giving them the freedom to fail and then learn from those opportunities as well.
So, how do you build that? How do you equip leaders in a business context to be successful, to do all the things you just said?
Sure. Well, I think first off, when you develop the right systems and the right culture where you have a culture of learning, I think it's easy for people to come on board and realize, hey, there's a development plan laid out for me. If I'm a new hire, there's a new hire checklist I need to follow. There is some kind of a long-term strategy for me to grow and develop through training or through assignments or through any projects where I can show my skills or maybe get coached or mentored by my manager or someone else that's done some of those things themselves in the past. But I think that if there's a great system in place, almost like a school where you come in and you've got a major, and that major says you need to take this course, this course, this course, and this course before these other courses, it really just lays out, here's what that development looks like. And that way, when you continually get employees or you continually get players coming in, you know that they've been given the right tools, resources that they need in order to be successful.
Yeah, talk more about this system. The system is key, isn't it? And there's so many aspects to the system. I mean, you likened it just then to a school. From an organizational context, what are some of the aspects of the system that support leader development?
I think that one of them I just mentioned, so as people come on board, making sure that there's some kind of a new hire checklist or a newly promoted manager checklist, and just what are the tools that they need, the software, the hardware, the equipment, and also what are the introductions that they need to key members of the organization. And we do the exact same thing in the football space, but it literally just happens to be helmet, shoulder pads, here's the equipment manager, and some other roles as well. Then after that, there's got to be some kind of an introduction to your organization's culture, which most of the time is officially a new hire orientation in a business. But also when it comes to a football team, we're trying to introduce players to their coaches, their teammates, their staff, and everyone else that they'll work with throughout the course of their existence.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of systems and structures in place to make sure that you're giving people the right opportunity to succeed and make sure they start off on the right foot.
Yeah. And even if you think even a little broader, the bigger ecosystem, I mean, I think about on the football field, the impact that the audience, the community, the people there that are cheering them on, their parents are such an important part of that system as well.
Absolutely. When it comes to systems, especially with high school football, I'll start there. We have some really great programs here in Indiana. First would be Center Grove, also Westfield and Brownsburg, which is who I represent. By the way, we've had 2 championships in the last couple of years. But I think each of those programs has done a solid job of taking what they want at the varsity levels and cascading that all the way down to second grade. So what they've done is they've started out with running similar plays with similar terminology, eventually adding in strength, speed, and agility development. They've also started to bring in a little bit more football IQ and stretched out everything that they've got to eventually lead those folks to a varsity level where they can compete and they can perform at the highest level, get opportunities to win championships, and also get opportunities for some of those players to play at the next level in college as well.
Yeah, I love that long game.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is starting second grade, you said.
Yeah.
Well, and think about the parallel to the organization then, is that we're focused on every aspect of the system. That you can't develop leaders in isolation, that there are all these factors and considerations that play into their success. And speaking of parents, so the free parent Zoom calls that you're doing.
Yeah.
And is it focused around helping them get their kids into college? How did that come about?
So I'm involved with our high school program here in the area, our middle school program, and our youth programs. And as I've seen some of my youth players get to middle school and I'm still engaged in their lives and then eventually to high school, what happens is colleges start looking at them for possibly playing in the future. And also when it comes to the players that want to continue their football careers and their education, they may have an opportunity to impress and then to go on and get scholarships. But even the ones that don't get scholarships can still continue to have an athletic experience in the collegiate years. So we started to come up with these Zoom conversations for parents just to help them navigate the system. I mean, literally some of the players that I've had a chance to coach, they're getting big time offers. I mean, they're getting offers from schools like Cincinnati, University of Michigan, and a few others. But they also have parents coming back to me saying, you know, I may not be familiar with football. I don't know what this recruiting process looks like, or I'm not from this country and I'm not sure what American colleges look like. So at the end of the day, I really put that together to help some of those families so that their players had an opportunity to continue their education and continue on in different levels. So we run them about once a year. This is our third year in 2026. But some of the topics that we talk about are getting started and what are some of the things to know before going out to some of the schools and doing some research. We also deal with off-season camps, on-campus visits, player development, choosing the right school, using Twitter and highlight films to promote, and then also the regulations with NCAA and NCAA.org. So it's a structured program at this point just to give some guidance and some wisdom to parents and players for how they can put their best foot forward so they can hopefully play at that collegiate level.
Well, and they don't know what they don't know. So you're filling in so many gaps. And it sounds very much like an emerging leader development program inside of an organization where you're filling in the gaps, you're providing structure. The other thing listening to you is just giving people space to recognize, like, it's okay that I don't know, but I've got lots of resources. I've got lots of support around me. Like we can do this.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, there's a level for everyone that wants to play if they want to play at another level after high school or something like that. But back to your point about not just a development plan or a succession plan in a workplace, but there has to be some kind of a strategy in place that says, we want to bring you on board as a new hire or as a new employee or as a new volunteer, whatever. And we want to give you all the tools and resources to be successful from the get-go. But then once they've been around for a while, you do have to have some kind of an emerging leader program. You should have if they're promoted, a new manager training program, and then some continuous development for them to stay good at their jobs. I mean, you don't want them just to be lucky. You want them to be good, and you want them to have the opportunity to develop the competencies they need in their new roles moving forward.
So there's a lot of discipline baked in to what you're talking about. A lot of thoughtfulness, a lot of follow through, like doing the work. There's also all of this relationship. How do discipline and relationship work together? Not against each other, but together.
I feel like first, when I hear discipline, I think of habits. And when I hear discipline, I think of structure, and I think of being consistent over time. So in the idea of developing relationships, we should develop specific habits and routines that help us to establish better relationships at work, at home, or in any other capacities too. But we should be intentional about how are we treating people? What are some of the things that we're trying to get accomplished? And what are some of the goals that we're trying to focus on? So then that way we're constantly making steps and strides towards some of those goals. Now, I'll tell you, I'm married, I've got 3 kids, and one of the things that I try to do as a weekly habit is to come up with some way for me to show appreciation to my wife. And at that point, if I'm being intentional about what that is, if you think about the 5 love languages, you got quality time, you've got acts of service, and you got all these others as well. But what am I doing every week to be intentional to garner that relationship?
What is her love language?
Oh, she is acts of service. She's also quality time. And it kind of shifts on me. And it keeps me on my toes a little bit, but I think every 2 weeks things change. And so I try to sprinkle in a little bit of everything.
What is your love language?
I am physical touch and acts of service.
Okay.
And I think both of those, because first off, I am so busy with the consulting and the training and the learning side. And then I switch gears and I get into coaching, and literally I will come home, I'll take 15 minutes, I'll change clothes, and I'll hit a football field. I'll eat dinner about 9 o'clock at night. So when things are done for me, I think it helps me save time and it helps me save my sanity. In terms of physical touch, I am a big high fiver, big fist bump, big chest bumper, big when it comes to hugs, especially with my players. And that way they know that, they're being loved, they're being shown some appreciation, and even being rewarded for some of the things they do well.
Yeah, it's an expression.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good example. I mean, what I hear in that, Lloyd, is when a relationship is important to you, you know that you have to be intentional with these habits to keep connection, to sustain connection, to grow connection.
Yeah.
Intentionality is key, isn't it?
Sure. When it comes to the idea of relationships in the workplace, one of the corporations that I worked for in the past had a solid list of what we call our 6 critical questions. And they were taken from a book written a while back called First Break All the Rules, What the World's Greatest Managers Do Differently. And this organization did a fantastic job of putting 6 of those questions from that book into a card format. And when it came to a card, it was small enough that we could keep in our pockets, we could keep it in our wallets, or you could throw it in a purse. But either way, there was some kind of a reminder that constantly showed you how you should garner relationships in the workplace. And one of the things that we wanted to do with that is make sure we had yes answers to each of those questions. And if you did so, you were being a great manager, you were doing a phenomenal job with your coworkers, and things were on the up and up. So the first question was making sure that people knew what was expected of them. If they knew what was expected of them, they didn't have to spend time trying to figure it out. They could have a laser focus and work on getting things accomplished. After that, making sure that they had the tools, the resources, the knowledge that they needed for their jobs. And so before they even ask, what are we providing for them to be successful? So they don't have to guess, so they don't have to figure out things that they don't know yet. Also, they wanted to make sure that we gave them a chance to do what they did best. And we gave them a chance to be successful with something that they were confident in. Afterwards, we also had a chance to provide them with recognition at least once a week in a way that they wanted to get recognition. Some people, that's just a smile and a handshake. Some people, it's just a thank you. Some people, it's bringing in their favorite meal or maybe getting them their favorite snack. But either way, you wanted to show appreciation on a weekly basis just to let people know that they were appreciated and that you felt great about some of their contributions. And then the last 2 were caring about them as a person, caring about them as their development, and making sure that we wanted to take the posture of helping them to learn and to grow. And as we help to support them in that journey, our job is to train, develop, and to motivate. But we also wanted to make sure we cared about them and show we cared about them as a person. So we're going to ask them about their family life. We're going to ask them about what's going on at home. We're going to ask them about some of their aspirations and things that they want to achieve in the future. So that way they know that they're just not a set of hands for us, that they are someone who truly means more to us than just being an employee or a cog in the wheel to help us get things done. So that was an awesome way to build a culture and give back the positive relationships that we wanted to get some results in that organization.
What impact did that have on culture?
Oh, man. Looking back on it, as I've been and seen and worked with clients that didn't have that, it's a night and day organizational shift just walking in the door. I mean,
you can feel it, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. When you see leaders that are, and I mean people with authority and titles and, at the upper echelons of the org chart, when they're walking through and they're high-fiving and they're shaking hands and they're smiling and talking with employees, that gives employees just this great feeling that they can go out and accomplish whatever they need to with their job or with customers that may be outward facing. But I've also seen organizations where the leaders don't talk to people. They're walking down the hallway and they're looking at the ground. And in those capacities, now it's like, what kind of a culture is established there with how you make people feel about coming to work, doing their job, and then going home? And if they don't have that motivation, they don't have that fire within, next you know, they may not be giving a full effort to maximize their performance and maximize the results that you need as an organization either.
So who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for culture and creating the environment that you just described?
In my opinion, I feel that it's up to the owner, the leaders initially to figure out what kind of a culture do we want to exist in this organization. And at that point, there's probably some kind of creation of mission, vision, values, beliefs, or some guiding principles that really cascades to everything else that needs to be done. Because now that you have that mission, vision, values, or belief system established, now you need to find people that fit that. And it also dictates, who do you hire? Who don't you hire? Who's a good fit? Who's not a good fit? And then let's go out and let's find the best talent possible. Let's bring them on. And then let's do our best to keep them. So now that we've got them in and we've got this culture and they bought in, now what we need to do is to make sure they know we're serious about this. Here's what it looks like behaviorally. And these are the ways that we need for you to show it to employees, to customers, to clients, or anyone else that may need to be affiliated with our organization. So they get the same feel.
Yeah, and not taking it for granted that it is very intentional and that everyone ultimately plays a part in that.
You said it.
What have you learned the most from coaching coaches and developing leaders?
What I think I've learned most about coaching coaches and developing leaders is the soft skills, the people skills are the most important. And regardless of the role, and regardless if we're talking about athletics or we're talking about anything in a work space, the people are the most important. And one of the things I learned a long time ago is, as a leader, you are serving the people that are in your care, that are in your organization, regardless of what it is. Quick story. When I was coaching in my early years, and I was actually coaching my son, and he was maybe a fourth grader or something around there, we would get knocks at the door, and next thing you know, boom, 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 you go to the door and you're looking down, there's like a crowd of little people, like 5 or 6 little people, ages like 9 and 10 years old. And I say, okay, hold on, I'll go grab my son, I'll go grab Trey. And they're saying, no, we're not here to see Trey, we're here to see you, coach. And I was like, can you come out and can you throw the ball with us? Sure. And another one saying, hey, can you teach me how to throw a football? Can you teach me how to catch a football? Oh yeah, sure. And now I'm going outside, I'm dragging my son, and now I'm outside in the middle of the street playing with these kids. And one of the things that I was wondering was, why are they coming to me? And for the ones that I knew, their fathers were either at work or their fathers had multiple jobs. Some of them didn't have fathers. Some of them didn't have anyone that they could ask those questions to. So when we were outside and we're tossing the balls back and forth, the questions would come out about, hey, this is a situation that happened to me at school. How would you deal with it? Hey, this is what's happened to me with my sister at home. How would you deal with this? Or here's something that's bugging me, but I really don't know who to talk to. So I started realizing that just being in a coach, fatherly kind of a role really meant that your kid wasn't just your kid, and anybody under your care is who you are in charge of developing.
It's wonderful.
And so many different ways, if we don't develop and if we don't have some of those conversations, if we don't give the car rides and work with some of these players, they're not going to be the best people, because eventually they'll grow up and they'll be husbands, they'll be fathers, they'll be brothers or sisters. And at the end of the day, it's our role to make sure that we're taking care of the people that will eventually take care of others. So I say all that just to kind of, bring this back full circle, that as managers and CEOs and directors, our role is to make sure that we're taking care of those people that are underneath us and right next to us. And as soon as we get the people skills down, and as soon as we start caring about the people as well as the results, great things start to happen at work and also at home.
So to the leader listening to this that is moved by that story, by what you've shared, and wants to do something differently, what's your advice? Where to get started?
Wow. I think a couple things. First, become a lifelong learner. And what I mean by becoming a lifelong learner is, once you realize that you want to take some different steps or strides, I would start seeking, what are some books that you can read, or maybe some podcasts you can listen to, or maybe some courses you can take, whether they're virtual, online, or face-to-face. But one of the resources I always recommend is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I've had a chance to teach that program for it's 20 years now. And just the way that you see the world, the way that you set goals, the way that you determine what and who is important, the way to become a better communicator, the way to work together with others that are different from you and have greater teamwork, and the opportunity to refresh yourself. I think that book and that program is foundational just to be a great human being. So I'd say definitely check out 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the book, the class, or anything that has to do with it. And then from there, figure out what else might make the most sense to help in your growth and your personal development.
What great advice. Thank you for that, Lloyd Brown.
Sure.
And thank you for being here. Thanks for all the insight you shared. And you've reminded me too that it's all connected. It's never, none of this work is done in isolation. Everything you do has a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. And we may never know what that is. Yeah. But I see you modeling that so well. So thank you, my friend.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
If our listeners want to connect with you, Lloyd, where can they find you?
Well, I'll give you both roles, but on the professional role first, feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. I'm just under Lloyd Brown. The business is Lloyd Brown Learning and Development, LLC. So take a look at us on LinkedIn either way. Also on the website, I'm at lbrownlearning.com. Again, that's lbrownlearning.com. We got all sorts of tools for you that are free. We've got a catalog in there to look at. We've also got some pictures that may show some fun that we're having in some of the courses and classes. And then I'm also on Facebook. Yes, I am still using Facebook. And
me too.
Lloyd Brown Learning and Development is on Facebook. Or you want to connect with me and we've got some personal history, I'll connect with you as well on Facebook.
Follow Lloyd. And I love your training nuggets.
Oh, I love food. I am a self-proclaimed foodie. So training nuggets, for those that don't know, are basically just a quick newsletter with maybe 5 bullet points on how to be a better employee or a better person. And then I've got another one specifically for leaders. So you can learn to be a better leader, a better manager, or maybe even a better parent with some of those guidelines too.
That's great. Thank you, Lloyd. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Hey, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. And if anybody wants to reach out to me on the football side, I definitely am available on Twitter at Coach Brown, and we can start conversations there. But appreciate the time. Thanks for having me out.
One relationship at a time. That is it. That is the whole thing. Lloyd didn't hand us a complicated framework or a 12-step leadership overhaul. He gave us something much more practical and much more powerful. A reminder that the best leaders, whether they're on a sideline or in a boardroom, show up for their people consistently, intentionally, one interaction at a time. And that story of the kids knocking on his door, not to see his son, but to see Coach, oh my gosh, it really moved me, because that's what happens when you lead with genuine care. People are drawn to you. They trust you. They grow because of you. And they don't even always know why. They just know that you are safe. That is culture. And Lloyd is right. It starts at the top, but it belongs to everyone. So a few things I'm walking away with from this conversation. Discipline and relationship are not opposites. They actually fuel each other. You cannot develop people in isolation. The system matters. And the gap between managing and coaching is smaller than you think. It just requires you to get out of the way and invest in your people, to recognize that is the most important part of your role. So if this conversation stirred something in you, if you are ready to lead more like a coach and less like a manager, that's exactly the work we do inside the Abundant Empowerment community, building leaders who build people. So please come join us. The link is in the show notes. And Lloyd, thank you so much. Keep coaching, keep developing, keep answering the door.